welcome back to the Pop Astrologist Presents. My name is Tasha. I'm also at the Pop Astrologist on social media. I have a very special episode today. I feel like we are doing a book club of sorts, Camille. Is that
That
right?
is right. Yes, we are here to talk about the book Matriarch by Tina Knowles. I'm back. Hi.
Which this was actually Camille's idea. Camille was basically like, Tasha, have you read Matriarch? And I was like, no, but should I? And yes, the answer is yes. If you've been doubting if you need to read this book, you must. If not, for an excellent astrological case study, because her
Yes.
chart comes alive. Whew.
Yes. And if you want just like more context on the phenom that is Beyonce, look no further than to Tina. She's like
This
the
is
seed.
this is probably the most we're ever gonna get, I feel like, of Beyonce's life.
Yeah, I don't think she's gonna do a matriarch in like 30 years. No way.
What about Solange?
Maybe Solange, but I was also thinking we'll get something from Blue Ivy. It'll just skip right over Beyonce and be Tina and Blue.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just a really important book with respect to her just like finally reclaiming herself at her age, which I just think is beautiful and lovely. And I was telling Tasha, so I listened to it on Audible and she narrates the book. And it was like a phone conversation. And so when it ended, I felt sad. I was like, where's Tina?
Honestly, I did not do the voice audiobook, but it makes me want to go back and listen to her tell this whole
Mhm.
story now. I had to do this for efficiency purposes,
No,
like
yeah, for real.
we need to get we need to get the talk in, but
Yeah,
also, oh my gosh. All right, so we're just gonna dive straight into Miss Tina Knowles. Miss Tina Knowles, which
yeah,
also thank you, Tina, for dropping Beyonce's birth time and clarifying that in the book
she
right
did.
before PM.
Yes. So we have that just like randomly thrown in. Love that for us.
Haters take note, whoever in the comments came at us the first
Yes,
go around.
still Aries rising. I regret to inform you.
Okay,
Oh,
so, well, LOL, I just got rid of Matthew because we will definitely get to him.
yes.
So much there. But Miss Tina Knowles, Leo Rising, Cap Stellium.
In that
What,
sixth
what,
house.
first thoughts, Camille.
Well, she's here to like be a really hard worker. And the difference, I mean, like the kind of dissonance between having Leo rising and then having the sun kind of hiding out in the sixth house in Capricorn. I feel like she has just slowly and over time, like gained more and more light and more presence and like more and more kind of like selfhood. So that's like the first thing in her chart that I was looking at for someone who seems so like in the background. Like she's like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like she's in the one to be in front of the camera. I
Yeah.
was curious about how that showed up in her chart, but yet she's such a powerful figure. I feel like if she was in the room, you would feel her gravitas, whether
Oh my
she's centering
gosh.
herself or not. Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, that Pluto in the first house, Leo
Yes, ma'am.
rising, that's just magnetism on it is
Yes.
intense
Very,
looking at
very
Tina
intense.
Knowles.
Yeah, like even the structure of her face is like, I don't want to mess with her. But one of my favorite realizations, I guess, or one of the favorite things I've learned about her is just how sweet and sensitive and soft she actually is,
Hmm.
and how much of that Capricorn self-doubt is part of her story as well. And it's just like, wow, you would never guess. You would just never guess. And so I love to see that kind of humanity come
Oh
up.
my gosh. Yeah, I that was honestly one of the biggest notes I had from the book too, is I guess this is how you can tell a Capricorn who has Capricorned the way they should have Capricorned.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the sense that I feel like she always held true to her mountain, which it's this idea of service to her family, to her kids,
Absolutely.
and with that sixth house. And so when she gets to her second Saturn return, she kind of embraces this idea of I am enough. And even if I
Mhm.
have a man or not, I am enough. But, I'm choosing me and being selfish, almost like that's her mountain point. That's her pinnacle.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Super
And seeing the
powerful.
context in which she was raised and as an objective viewer, I was like, this kind of harsh stuff happening. And I'm wondering how that stayed with her throughout the course of her life. And I was just
Hmm.
so happy, like at that second Saturn return, she was like, and then I went and did EMDR. And I was like,
Yeah.
yes, Tina, sort it out. You don't need to like carry all of that. I don't know. I was just so happy for her. I felt the mountaintop as she was speaking. And I was like, we're getting higher and higher and higher and higher. It was so gratifying.
You know, it's so interesting because I had a thought. I was so excited, yes, when she got therapy, that specific therapy, but in my head, I'm like, you had to go through your whole life, or you went through your whole life without that realization or without that understanding.
Yeah.
And you're writing the book now because you are at this really beautiful point where you have almost like, not to say fully healed, right? I don't think any of us is fully are ever fully healed, but you've done a lot of work in that part of your
Yeah.
life. And so it's cool to see, but man, enduring life without that awareness, I can't imagine how difficult it would have been in the moment. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this is still
Absolutely.
wrapped up really pretty for us.
Yeah, it is. Are you referencing when she got to the point where she was like, even though obviously she loves and reveres her mom, she was kind of connecting the dots that how her mom
Oh.
raised her either way caused damage. And it doesn't, we can love our parents and they can do the best that they can, but sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
there's damage. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, Tina, I was waiting for you to realize this as a person
Mm-hmm.
who's
Yeah.
just listening to this at 3 times speed.
I was gonna say, did her tone of voice, like, do you feel like she was like reliving when she was retelling those moments, or did you sense a shift in any when she's like being more active in the present?
Yes,
Mm.
well, first of all, she was very emotive in her speaking. There were points where we could tell that she was crying or holding back tears.
Mm.
And yeah, when she did get to, I guess, this realization, in the latter half of her life, second Saturn return, I personally felt like a kind of softening in the way that she was even presenting the information. Like it was like that was a person who absolutely healed and was able to succinctly say what it is that they healed and like name it. I don't know. So I did kind of feel as the book was going on, like more and more
Yeah.
confidence and agency in her voice in and of itself.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think that's so beautiful because if you think about her Saturn and Scorpio, obviously she's got Mars there. It's hard to disentangle the two, but on some level, right? Like the antidote being
Mm,
Taurus, the polarity, based on what
yeah.
you've just said, like she's able to distill it down to such simple wisdom. And I think that's what like the highest vibration of Taurus is, right? It's not
Yeah.
excluding Scorpio, it's integrating it more
That's
meaningfully.
beautiful. Yes. And I think that's also like part of that Capricorn stellium is like being able to look back and in a very plain, kind of practical way, be like, oh, this is what happened. Because when you're living those Scorpio, Mars, fourth house times in the moment, like you don't know that you're going through that. So yeah, that upbringing, she had a rough upbringing.
Oh my
I didn't know.
gosh.
Yeah.
It's also interesting to see her with the Neptune on the IC, really it does make sense that the way she's conveying the information in the book,
Mm,
like that Neptune, just like, yeah, at the end of the day, like we're going to talk about it and we're going to be objective about it. But there was always a balance. Like there was never too much of one thing. It was like, I think a really beautiful mix of highs
it
and
was.
lows. And I think also when you're thinking about fourth house and you're thinking about, well, parents, right? And you're thinking about origin story.
Mm,
Neptune on the IC can indicate a sort of hollowness, right? The idea of I don't really have an identity in the family
hmm.
because I am what everyone needs me to be.
Yeah.
And with Venus and Capricorn as part of that stellium, like it is actually, they're all actually within orb too, So it's literally, it's so concentrated that I can't
Yeah.
imagine how difficult it must have been to not carry the weight of family
Oh,
anymore.
yeah.
Like that would have been such an arduous task to put down. So like
Yeah.
kudos to her.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I feel that Neptune on the icy part of how she was like the youngest, like and that she was coming after everybody. And I did feel kind of like as she was relaying her childhood, like that kind of like where do I fit in this pecking order? And she ultimately kind of became like the kind of precocious child, which I thought was just so cute. Not at all what we would expect. But yeah, family things are heavy for her in the current chart and articulated through South Node Cancer, 12th house. So she's been
Mhm.
carrying family weight for a long time. But ultimately, I think in this lifetime, she did something pretty powerful to change the dynamic.
This was all Saturn reward,
Oh,
you
for
know.
sure. It's
Like
a grind.
it's It's not easy. She really,
Mhm.
and what I love to see, like, was the Gemini and the Capricorn in action, the way she's
Mm,
so entrepreneurial, the way she materializes things. And I think maybe that's what being an entrepreneur is, right? Like more than like the money or whatever, it's her ability to translate her vision or her ideas into whatever form. But because it's Earth, there is an actual material form that is taking place, whether it is via the costumes for Destiny's
yeah,
Child, whether she was the behind the scenes manager, which is so six house coded as well.
it
Um,
is.
Also really interesting because like Mars ruling the 10th house. We'll talk about Matthew in a second later, but the idea that he's like the superior manager or like the person who was in charge in theory, but she
Yeah.
handled everything.
She really did. Yeah. I also see that Jupiter retrograde in the 11th house as, some her ideas weren't like popular at the time sometimes, and
Mm,
even like with Matthew. And certainly if we're going to use like the whole Destiny's Child, like her like dressing them at the time, right? She was catching a lot of flack for that.
mm-hmm,
Or she was like not taken seriously in that world. So I do sense like the retrogradation there as like the resistance to like, no, this is the vision. It can work out. No, look at this. But only in retrospect, right? Being ruled by that Capricorn vortex, do we see how actually profound those ideas were and
mm-hmm.
kind of ahead of their time.
Oh, super. I mean, Uranus on the South Node in Cancer, right?
Mhm.
Like her ideas are literally, I bet, they're like coming ancestrally, right? Like from the mother line.
Mhm.
Truly, they're flowing through her always. And so I appreciate that. Well, one, the book is named Matriarch, but it is just such a beautiful integration of the South Node as well into your North Node purpose, right? Like it's not choosing one or the other, it's
Yeah.
intertwined.
And I
Mm.
see so that Neptune is like right in the bendings of the nodes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I see
Mm-hmm.
that as the story, especially South Node in the 12th house, as like using, she has so much devotion. We should just name that straight up. But that kind of like maybe being her downfall in prior lifetimes or like losing herself to that devotion. And I see
Mm-hmm.
like the North Node in Capricorn in the 6th house as like, no, we're going to pour that devotion into meaningful responsibilities that pay long-term dividends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cannot be erased, right? It cannot be kind of negated there. And I feel like that's so much of what she's done. But I could hear that struggle like as she was getting there in the telling of her story as she was
Mm.
reading me her book.
Oh,
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I definitely need to go listen to this audiobook now. But it is interesting because Saturn and Mars in the fourth, especially when you're looking at a chart in Placidus, right, rules her fifth house of kids and the sixth house of responsibility. So also to
Mm,
like intertwine the investment, like she really believes in her kids. And I
yeah.
think that was also very Neptune in the IC, even the way, she was parenting like Solange in terms of like, oh, like it's okay if you don't want to go to college, if you just, like want to have a family very early, which also very
Yeah.
Jupiter Gemini, as you alluded to earlier, being countercultural and like unique or ahead of your time, even in
Yeah.
your ideas.
Yeah. And she didn't force Solange into like, oh, like Beyonce is so successful in this specific way. She didn't force Solange to also have to be successful in that
Mm-hmm.
way, which I just that that's I don't know. I just feel like that's beautiful. It
Mm-hmm.
rewired maybe how I viewed Tina, and before the book, maybe kind of seeing her as stage mom, but after
Mm.
reading the book, I was like, no, this is just like a woman who happened to raise superstars,
Yeah.
trying the best that she could. She never wanted to mold them into success. She never wanted to live vicariously through that. I'm like, wow, what happens when you just have two behemoth talents as your daughters? You just have to
No
rise
big deal.
and really nourish that. Yeah. Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh.
they are the extension of her, right? On some
Exactly.
level, that they are her legacy. So this was all there. It was so cool to actually see like the parallels of her early childhood when she was in the Veltones and
Yeah.
then obviously Beyonce with Destiny's Child. It's like all her gifts were basically split between the kids. And I do think this is what siblings take on. It's like, in theory, there should be no comparison because they're almost like they're here to do two different things.
That's right.
And I bet you can even trace that with like the placements, which we will also layer Solange and Beyonce in a
We
second too.
will.
But yeah.
I was also just like noting Neptune on the IC in Libra as just artistic lineage. And so just coming from a
Mm.
family or being incarnated into this world with kind of aesthetic and creative instincts. And that's just showing up like through how she's raised her daughters, but also the fact that she was artistically inclined as well. So yeah, that's a
Hmm.
really powerful Neptune. She comes from a line of creators. I would be curious to see how far back it goes. It's probably really, really far back.
That's so interesting. You know, what's actually really funny is a thought just came to mind. I'm like, why would someone need that much Capricorn? You know what I mean? Because like realistically, when you look at a chart, you can think of it as, oh yeah, these are the placements I have. But I'm like, why would I then choose? Why would I choose all of this, right? And then I'm thinking, dang, is that what you need to combat Neptune on the IC and a South Node in the 12th house? Like, because her chart can be pretty hyper Neptunian as well, and
Mm.
sugarcoating the tough times and maybe living in just, you know what? It's a dream and a fantasy, nothing real. And so it's like, boom, I have to make this real. So, like, this wasn't her first rodeo, methinks, in this type of setup.
Oh yeah, for sure. And when you see like the nodal activations between her and her daughters, I think it's also quite clear that they have followed each other into this life. But yeah, I
Hmm.
love the question of like, no, no, why would you need this much Capricorn? And it made me think
Because,
about my own stellium. And yeah, up against the forces of the moon, up against like the forces of the 12th house. And like, it's a lot. You really need to be present and in
hmm
reality in order to like fight against that. Yeah.
hmm Or turn your beautiful ideas into actual concrete. It's
There
like
you
the
go.
push you need, you know? Which I've seen your stuff. Your stuff has been like so good as of late too. Everyone go
Yeah.
follow Camille.
Thank you.
But
I'm
what you're,
materializing it, materializing it.
yes, devotion into action. Six
Yes,
twelfth
beautiful.
house accents.
Yes, yes, yes.
What was interesting also that Jupiter Gemini, a thought just came to mind too. What you were saying about how, her ideas were ahead of her time. When you see that trine, which, trines in theory lovely, but in this case, trining Lilith in Libra,
Mm,
in the third series in Libra, like you can kind of think about that as third house, like socialization, right? Like what I grew up learning and understood about my cultural environment. And when you think about Libra, social justice and racism, obviously, and the racism she had to endure, and she definitely documents all of that as well,
mm.
growing up in Texas. So, it's interesting to see that also flow into the Jupiter Gemini because, on some level, like that is the theme that gets underscored throughout her life, right?
Yeah. I also see like Jupiter is technically forming a trine to Neptune as well, and she is just like a
Mm.
huge dreamer. And so yeah, that Capricorn is like great. That's a great little dream. Let's actually put it into
With the detriment
action.
Jupiter.
Yeah. And like how she was like so wanting to get out of the house and move to Los Angeles. Like she wanted her life to really be big and expansive. And I could see that she was glamorizing that, like, oh, I'm gonna move to Hollywood. I'm gonna move to like Los Angeles, which is very
Hmm.
Neptune on the IC, like these
Hmm.
idealizations or seeing things like in a very romanticized way, which comes up again, like with her and Matthew's relationship, in my opinion. So yeah,
Mm.
and this conversation is really helping me realize this. So thank you that Neptune on her IC is actually quite directive. It's like really foundational to who she is as a person. Yeah.
I mean, and the fact that like Venus rules that, like, oh my God, she is so beautiful. Like even her early pictures, like I'm really glad she did include all those pictures. Oh my gosh, like it really
Yeah.
did put the visuals to the book, and you're like, holy cow, you were really something. Like if I saw you on the street, you were glamorous, and I would imagine you to be a
Yeah.
celebrity. Like there would just be no other way.
That's so crazy. So reading the Audible version, I did not see the pictures. So I think we got like different advantages doing
Oh.
it different ways. Yeah. I was Googling things. I only saw like the same five pictures over and over again. But yeah, she was a hell of a stunner.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And the
I
bone
have my
structure and all that Capricorn stuff and the Leo rising and her beautiful blonde hair. Ugh, love
mm,
it.
I was gonna say it like how like there were certain moments in the book. Well, I personally cried because I'm a Cancer. It is
Yeah.
what I do when I read memoirs. But when I looked at the photos because they were all put at the back, it was like
Okay.
reliving the book again, but through picture format because it was
Yeah.
chronological. And I'm just like, oh my God, crying again, especially when Uncle Johnny,
Yes.
which I don't think I appreciated his story enough. Like I knew he was such a big factor into Renaissance and I just it was really, really helpful to read and almost like, oh my God, it's even more gutting, actually.
Yes. I did not realize what a pivotal role Johnny played. Like he was actually their second father. And yeah, when Renaissance came out and there was a reference to Uncle Johnny, I was just like, oh, interesting. Like I'm not sure how close they were. And I was like, I hope it's not like virtue signaling or just like something that you, I don't know. But it seems like in
Mhm.
the book, they were like really peas in a pod with Uncle Johnny,
Mhm.
which then made his passing like very hard, even to recount through
Mm.
the book. Yeah.
Yeah. I it is very interesting because obviously a big thing that folks lately or folks maybe always criticize about Beyonce is, like activism and how she speaks up or not speaks up and how she uses her platform.
Mhm.
And I just found it so profound because it's like obviously this was so ingrained in their family and this was something that was really talked about in the book and highlighted. And so to me it's like it informs the values of who she is, and that actually comes out in her work. And
Mhm.
so I also therefore appreciated reading, like just getting the whole context, because again, it really helps contextualize other people, other folks we might
Absolutely.
not have known about really in that same way.
I totally agree. Yeah, we can see Beyonce's values like very clearly through how Tina describes her as a child
Mhm.
and through all phases of her life, actually. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, obviously we had mentioned Matthew.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna layer Matthew in a second, but when you look at this chart in terms, putting on a more relationship filter,
Yeah.
how would you describe?
I mean, very malefic. She has the ruler of her seventh as a malefic, so it's Saturn. It's with Mars in the fourth house, and Mars is already, it's malefic and it's in its own sign, so it's very powerful, it can very much cause damage. So
Mhm.
I would say, look, this looks like some trouble. This looks like some sticky, prickly kind of situations. Yeah.
Her and Matthew's relationship was so incredibly tumultuous. She was so incredibly forgiving. I can't believe how open she was, but I guess when you're writing a memoir, it is what it is. They had such
Yeah.
a public, messy type of, I wouldn't say public divorce, because that didn't necessarily lead to the divorce, but scandal or what have you.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, yeah, she really stuck it out, like through a lot of things that I personally would not have stuck it out through. And if there's a conjunction that sticks it out, it's Saturn conjunct Mars and Scorpio.
Mm. She's willing to work for it long term. And there's like what did she keep saying? A cosmic connection. Like she was,
Ah, yeah, she did say that a lot.
I love her astrology references too in the book.
Yes.
Like there's the cancers in the room. I was just
But
like,
like only Cancer. Did you notice she only named up dropped Cancers?
oh, wait, she did one Sagittarius, I think.
Oh,
Her friend who she moved to LA with early on in the book,
yes.
who didn't believe in
Right.
astrology, I think.
Got it. Yeah. But I thought it
Yes.
was funny because we're like, oh yeah, Virgo, Beyonce, Virgo. And she's like, didn't mention it once.
No, it's the cancers, but hey, that South Node, she
South
can't
Node.
help but be fond
Yes.
of us. But okay, I mean, so Matthew, we don't actually have a time for, just the day. Tina, we do have the time for, so we're layering it this way. But bam, Mars Neptune.
Didn't see that till just now. So someone who activates that kind of fantasy. And again, it's a person who's serving as this fulcrum of like, will you do what you did before? Or will this be something that triggers you into the North Node? And she went back and forth, obviously, a little bit because that's human life. But that's how I see that Mars as like really activating that Neptune, South Node, North Node journey.
Um,
And now she did fall into the romance of it all. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. It's hilarious because it's obviously Mars and Neptune in Libra and they
Mhm.
like had that when they reconciled after their divorce, they were on a
Mhm.
boat and they were like in their own little love bubble hiding.
So
I was just
cute.
like, "Oh my God, this fourth house like act
Yes.
so on
You have to
brand."
like just like randomly like Tina has a really strong connection to like bodies of water. So like Galveston Bay was like a
Mhm.
huge part of her upbringing. She almost drowned in that same bay. So again, when we're thinking about
Oh.
Neptune, it's also just very literally like bodies of water as a place of solace or like spiritual
Mhm.
connection. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's very, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the fact that Matthew owes Saturn on her Lilith, on her series, like, I can't imagine a Lilith activation like that with Saturn feeling particularly easy.
Oh no. Yeah. You can see here though, like where their spark is, but you can see very clearly where It can definitely go sideways. I'm looking at the moon Jupiter, and again, like he is someone, so his moon in Gemini is on her Jupiter in Gemini. And I feel like he activated that promise of like, I will help you make your life bigger. Because I think fundamentally Matthew
Mhm.
Knowles was just an enterprising kind of dude, right? And doesn't
Genius,
he have,
yeah.
yeah, he has like Mercury in Sag, Venus in Sag. So he's like, I'm trying to make the horizons of my world bigger constantly. So
Mhm.
I'll bring you on that journey with me. And he did it. He made her world bigger.
It's so interesting because it's almost like her Jupiter is literally like the midpoint opposition between like Venus and that Mercury in terms of like exactness.
Yes.
So it's like he had all these ideas, but as much as he also helped expand her life, she was the one who could actually translate it.
So she put it into practice. Yeah, Mercury
Yeah.
and Sag is just good in this case for like, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Let's try this. Yeah. Yeah, he had a lot of irresponsible uses of money. That's what I think I remember from the book.
Hmm.
And that speaks to the wily nature of having the Gemini moon, but also Mercury and Sag ruling that moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think she had said at one point like, before they got married, I think. Oh no, after they got married and he got the call like, "Oh, there's all this debt." And she's like, "What are you
Yes.
talking about?" And he's like, "Don't worry, I got it. And then I'll like get a house." And she was like, "Wow, he really did manifest that." It almost like the fact that he was able to pull himself out of it, right, was almost like a bigger marker of trust because like it's proven to me that you can, sure, you might shoot for the stars, but sometimes like that's gonna miss. And if you're able to pull us up back out of that, sure, that's fine. I'll go along with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was
After all,
interesting.
he does have the same Capricorn sun and he has an exalted Saturn in Libra. So he is a businessman and he did foundationally like really help her, right, with headliners and
Hmm.
with obviously Destiny's Child. But it's up
Hmm.
against so many other like really bombastic placements that, as you said, shoot for the stars and like definitely do not land anywhere close to the stars. It's like big risk, big reward, but a lot of the times for
Hmm.
him, big risk, big you know, catastrophe.
Yeah. What do you make of that Venus Mercury Chiron conjunction between them?
Venus. Oh yeah. So his Chiron's in Capricorn. Her Venus is 8 degrees of Capricorn, and Mercury's 8 degrees of Capricorn.
Hmm.
I think that she was someone. I think Chiron and Capricorn is fundamentally like, am I important? Will I do anything that's important here? Is my
Mm.
legacy like? Will I ever achieve a kind of recognition that has legs. And so I feel like with her Venus and her Mercury there, she actually spoke life into him. It's like, no, these are actually great
Mm.
ideas. Or like because she was able to transmute or translate the ideas, maybe that was kind of like a healing connection. And he could have been like, no way,
Mm.
I am maybe a valuable business person, or I do have, good ideas. But she
Mm.
also has that Chiron and Capricorn as well. So she would be facing the same kind of pain. So yeah, it's interesting that they have that link together and they're both so enterprising and yeah, they helped each other go through it.
I wonder what his rising sign is. I really wish I knew,
Yeah.
but that Lilith though of his on her Uranus, like I think there was a defining moment at the end where or close to the end where she was talking about like basically if she left, it's the key to her freedom, but for
Mm.
him, it's like she's helping heal him. So I feel like that's very much that, in the 12th house, especially for her. Like this is something she has to let go of. She can't like be responsible for his entire emotional well-being on some level. He has to
Yeah.
really figure that out for himself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she was doing a lot of the emotional labor in that relationship, for sure. Yeah, so she wasn't getting the same kind of Chiron healing in return. Not at all. I don't
Hmm.
think.
Yeah, maybe if there was more reciprocity, right? Because they both the Libra, right? And even though Neptune and Libra is an outer generational planet, it's on her IC, so it's pretty, again, as you said, integrated into her foundation and who she is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Anything else particularly about these two you want to
Is there?
highlight? Is there?
Not really. I mean, they had a lot of fun together. He has Venus and Sag in her fifth house. Again, I feel like he was just he electrified her in a way that was like so
Hmm.
needed. But again, you can't sustain that. So
Honestly, if you happen to have, again, like Neptune on your IC, if you got your nodes in the 12th and 6th, like you might want to like just again read Tina Knowles' book just to understand like exactly how that can come out in your life. And it's again the idea of how do we put practice devotion into action, right? Like what do we actually really want of our lives? On some level,
Yeah,
maybe Tina did prioritize everything else but her own life, so the
that's
relationship
exactly
could
right.
withstand that.
Yeah, and she was uber forgiving over and over and over and over and over again, which is another liability of Neptune and Libra, because it's like I'm
Hmm.
only going to see the best or the potential in this person, which keeps you in that cycle of like, yeah, it's no good for anybody,
Hmm.
but especially her.
Hmm. God bless you, Tina. Okay, obviously, next up we have Beyonce 904, bless, bless, bless. Although that means that birth certificate was wrong,
Yes, that's right.
947, which I wonder if there was like a recording difference versus like time difference type of
Yeah,
situation.
like she came into the world and then like the nurse forgot. I was like, oh, it's 9:47. It's just like, but
I mean,
9:47.
considering how many medical stuff she ran into, which I would understand also is a very standard Black experience in this country,
Yeah.
but it just, seemed very magnified for her as well in the book and traumatizing. So I
Oh,
wouldn't be surprised if
yes.
that was also like a recurring theme, the idea of like you wouldn't get that birth time just because of that carelessness. So you
That's
had to
right.
trust her word over what's being shown.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. That Chiron in her sixth house is mega major with a lot of traumas she's been through in her life. Either taking care of someone who is sick, having terrible doctor's experiences, having like random accidents, and then of course, breast cancer diagnosis. So that Chiron
Hmm.
is really loud, like right next to her sun, pretty much. Yeah.
Almost as if it's like when you're not taking care of yourself or like at that point, it's like, all right, how like your blinders are so on, you cannot see beyond like the your own physical limitations right now,
Yes.
which she still
Yes.
tried to defy. Like she pushed off her um I forget when she had breast cancer. She
Yeah,
like
she pushed off her, what was it, her mammogram. Like she was
yes.
like, whatever, it's okay, it'll be fine.
Such a Cap six house response, like
Yeah. Like
whatever.
when it comes to you, it's like whatever. But everyone else, it's like I'll just rearrange my entire universe to be there. And she did. She moved back from Los Angeles to Galveston to take care of her mom. Like a
Hmm.
lot of her life revolved around taking care of others.
It is very interesting. I know I like brought up Beyonce, but it actually might be an interesting thing to
Hmm.
understand Tina through Beyonce's chart. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Because of the moon situation. So if I'm looking at Tina, right, like just describing her, how would you describe her relationship with her mom based on this Mercury moon, Capricorn, or however you want to define that moon, really, with whatever
Yeah.
aspect?
Definitely a relationship based on like earning approval, earning respect, like not wanting to get on someone's bad side, having uber respect also for the parent figure to the point where you're willing to kind of overlook some things that are not so great maybe about them. So like this kind of exalted respect, which gives someone a very overwhelming kind of power over you, which I guess maybe is what I was picking up there. But yeah, definitely
Hmm.
a mom that she wants to take care of, that she wants to please, but also a mom that she wants to be proud of her. Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
When I see that moon, I feel like it's so interesting, right? Because it can talk to me, it can tell me about her experience. It also tells me about her mom's experience. And either way, it just feels like it's just crowded, that moon can get no rest, even if it
Mm,
tried. Like
that's a good
it would
point.
just be so difficult between the mental stimulation and then Mercury, you think about the kids and
Yeah,
you think about the son, the father, and like other hardship, and your needs coming last to everything.
that's very true. That moon is not getting a break at all.
No.
Just labor, 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 toil, 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 which is very much the story of so many Black Americans through the bloodline. You know what I mean? Like, not
Mm-hmm.
ever being, like, being able, not being able to enjoy the fruits of all of your labors, even though you've spent so much of your time laboring. That's what that
Yeah.
sixth house reminds me of.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
heavy for sure. I was gonna say, obviously, because you are, I feel like amassing an immense research project on Neptune. But obviously, Tina with Neptune on the IC, what would you make of that in the context of your beautiful, beautiful research?
Well, not that her only role is someone's mother, but I do kind of see that as someone who is birthing a culturally significant person. I don't know, because the
Mm.
IC has so much to do about like origins.
Hmm.
So I see Beyonce as part of Neptune on the IC, like literally giving birth to a superstar. So that's how I see that. But I also see it as her just being a person who's able to carry the creative lineage of her family forward. And of course, in like prior generations, that was capped at how much you can like take that. But with Beyonce and with like her Capricorn stellium, she was like, I'm gonna see how far I can take this vision. And she took it really far. So that's why I feel like Tina's within the story of Beyonce and Neptune, it's like she was a seed or she was able to like generate something, even though she wasn't necessarily the one who was like the center focus of it. If that makes
Hmm.
sense. Like that Neptune is at the darkest part of the chart when you think about it. And
Yeah.
Beyonce's Neptune is at the highest part of her chart. Um, but
Just
yeah,
for visual context for
yeah.
the
I feel like
Neptune out
Tina maybe
there.
saw the Neptune in Beyonce for that reason, because she has Neptune on the IC.
Mm, that's a very good point. It is
Yeah.
interesting to, again, so now put Tina back in the middle. It's like very striking, right? The opposing nodes,
Hmm.
as you alluded to earlier, like they've followed each other, so there's almost a social contract here. But I've been struggling with opposing nodal synastry, and I think, wow,
Yes.
this is such a beautiful rendition of what it can be, which
Yeah.
I don't even think I'm able to like put into words necessarily, but their relationship is just so, I mean, the synastry is like synastry hardcore.
It is, and Beyonce's Mars, right on Tina's ascendant. So a lot about Beyonce also helping Tina find her self-sovereignty. But yeah, it's opposite nodal structures to me is like you have like first of all, this person feels familiar. And for
Mhm.
that reason, you have an opportunity to work through whatever past life karma that you guys had. And you guys are meeting in the middle and then kind of walking opposite ways, right?
Mhm.
Beyonce towards Cancer and Tina towards Capricorn. Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, meeting in the middle and kind of exchanging or alchemizing or, the magical way things happen.
Mhm.
Yeah, so them
Yeah.
assisting each other on their soul journeys.
Yeah. And obviously Beyonce's Pluto sits on
Mm.
the IC of Tina as well. So this is intense synastry. It also does make sense. I mean, when you think about how when you have difficult, maybe potentially difficult planets in aspect like that, you'd think, oh, this would be a more complicated dynamic, etc. But obviously,
Mm.
they're so, so close. They're so, so tight. And that's also like another version of Pluto and Neptune together, right? Like there's just, it's like an unbreakable bond between them.
Yeah, like Kismet or like, yeah, that kind of karmic Teflon that they got going
Hmm.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, earlier you said how maybe folks might have thought Tina could have been like a show type of
Hmm.
mom. And I think in the back of my mind with Tina, I was just like, there's so many people who at a certain point there's like a big feud with the family or what have you. And I feel like there was just such a celebration of, from Beyonce through her music about the matriarch line.
That's very true.
So it
Yeah.
just it's almost also like very hard to believe, right? Because the norm is the complete opposite, dysfunctional, Miley Cyrus and her family drama, like the Beckhams, like that's what you would expect from like a high celebrity family, but they really were so deeply rooted and connected. And even hearing Kelly's story, how she was
Mm.
folded into the family, it was just so beautiful.
Yeah, really remarkably normal upbringing for people who are like the most famous in the world. Not at all the stage mom, kind of like Disney kind of package there. Just genuinely a person who wanted the best for her child.
That's why you have all that Capricorn. That's
Yeah.
you ground everyone around you too. And it just makes me think of Taylor Swift, not to bring up the
Mhm.
comparison, but she also has a Cap Stellium. And the
Mhm.
idea that she does kind of also embody, like, because that's like, the idea, right? Like her family's helped her out a lot and like they're
Yeah.
all committed to her vision. It's like, you know what? If you're a parent and you have a child or you've got, an intense Cap Stellium, and if your kid's got dreams, you should go for
Mm.
them.
Yeah, you should help them. Yeah, it'll pay off.
Well, earlier I said, we can kind of deduce how the mothering experience is or how the mother was like from someone else's chart. So knowing what we now know about Tina and then seeing this in the context of Beyonce's chart, how does this translate? How did Beyonce experience Tina? Did it line up with the way that Tina described in the book?
No, I'm flummoxed. I mean, okay, so she has the moon in Scorpio conjunct Uranus. The moon in Scorpio actually makes sense when you think about how deeply tied she is to her mom. Like, again,
Mm,
that unbreakable connection. The
hmm.
Uranus thing, and maybe once we start noodling on it, more realizations will come to mind. But when I
Yeah.
see Moon Uranus, I do see a mom who's high strung or who is unpredictable or whose
Mm,
moods are all over the place. And that is not, first of all, how Tina presents. And I don't think she would be hiding that because she doesn't appear to be that kind of person. And
hmm.
two, there was just nothing in the book that saw her being anything but solid, super loyal. So I'm curious about how that Uranus is actually going to come up. What do you think it
Mm.
means?
I think so. You know how I think it was Solange
Mhm.
actually who vocalized it in therapy that he was upset that mom just showed up, disrupted routine, and then just like
Ah,
was my time, was my life not important? And even if it was like super insignificant, right? Like Beyonce and Solange, they handle things very differently. Beyonce would never necessarily be as, I think, explicit with her emotions the way with all that Libra, and Mercury and Saturn, like you wouldn't imagine her to be, but I felt like Solange vocalized what maybe Beyonce might have thought. Because if you're thinking about it, right, like someone with a sixth house stellium, i.e. Virgo, also in the sixth house, if you're looking at a whole sign, like that is a person that really does want the routine and the
absolutely.
idea of all of a sudden we're not going to school today.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I do see now that Uranus just relaying this kind of abnormal childhood, especially once she started getting into music. Yeah, so the disruption, or we're going here, or we're going there.
hmm
Totally,
hmm
totally, yeah.
I think also
But
Uranus
out
is
of
in the
love, out of love.
out of love. Eighth house, like
Yeah,
deep connection, also
yeah.
trauma. Just kidding. But
I mean, but yeah.
it also makes me think Uranus and the moon, like your mom was like a really remarkable woman, right? She was just like a
Yes.
super independent on her own, did her thing. Like, so it can translate to that, but it would also probably mean that maybe things are a little more erratic at home as such, because if your mom had ambition and did things her way, it it might not have necessarily felt comfortable, especially if you have all this Libra and you're
Mm,
trying to like make everything pretty and look good. But I think over time she'd come to appreciate her mom's genius.
yes.
And that is also, I think, how Uranus on the moon translates too.
Yeah, that's true. Like it's a literal embodiment also, or it's a very evocative of like her mom doing all of her outfits and like, the matchy match. It was kind of Uranian, at the time.
Mhm.
And her mom was like the the catalyst, obviously, for all those things, even though they liked the outfits and they kept wearing them. But you're so
Mhm.
right. Uranus is like my mom is super exceptional. And she was. She absolutely is. In the
She
whole maternal
absolutely.
line, likely. Yeah. It
Yeah.
also kind of makes me wonder, she did name drop astrology a little bit, but I'd be
hmm
curious about Tina's spiritual life with her
Mm.
own South Node, 12th house, with her own fourth house Scorpio stuff, and then her being represented as this Scorpio, like Moon Uranus conjunction. I want to know, I want to know
Mm.
about her spirituality.
Interesting. Yeah, that's actually a really, really good point. I think it is also fascinating to see that Chiron opposition to the
Yeah.
moon and Uranus in this context as well. And the Venus in Libra. Like I almost feel like Tina was so beautiful.
Mm,
Like I can't imagine as a kid like Beyonce really like wanting to be like her mom, but
yeah.
also maybe feeling the sense of like I found my voice, like she helped me find my voice, but which is very Uranus moon Chiron, like in of
Yeah.
itself. But I do think that eventually then Beyonce became that for her mom, Tina. So you see the Chiron work two ways.
Yeah, Beyonce's song "Pretty Hurts" reminds me
Mm,
of this opposition, like the ways that beauty, and they come from like a family, obviously, with they're in the beauty industry, like that is their lineage, just to pass on beauty and aesthetic. Yeah, and that Chiron kind of articulating certain pressures and complexities that likely come with that.
I think what you just said also was really powerful in the context of Neptune and Libra because it was interesting because I'm like, oh my God, the hair care line makes a lot of sense. Not that it didn't make sense before, but it added another layer of, wow, this is not just like a cash grab or whatever, right? Like this is also very much rooted in,
Legacy. Yeah.
yeah, so like take that capitalist haters because there's more to this. Like, I mean, I don't know. It felt more powerful. It really did. And then to know that the Bay Good Foundation also has like these, I guess, like grants for beauty school, like
Yes.
that's amazing too. And then you see that from the headliners, like you really just see the origins of everything. So thank you, Tina. That was
Yes.
really
Including
beautiful.
Uncle Johnny. And that's so right. Like you feel like she's doing these things, like it's kind of random or one-offs. But when you actually get into the history through Tina, you're like, no, these things had like a huge stronghold in her identity and who she
Hmm.
was and where she came from. And they're not at all like flippant. They're deep and devotional and likely, I don't know, they should be proud of themselves
Yeah.
for
Holy
carrying it
cow.
through. Yeah.
Oh my God, beautiful. But I love that you brought up Uncle Johnny again because
Yeah.
obviously the sixth house emphasis for Beyonce. Like, when you think about, oh, the sixth house, maybe it's like not the most, glamorous house, quote unquote, but obviously, like in Placidus, Beyonce's sixth house really, really stands out. But it
Mhm.
is so, you really do see how significant Uncle Johnny was in her life as well. So the uncle emphasis hitting there.
Yes. Yeah. So the sixth house representing like aunts and uncles and all that. Yeah. Like a figure who's not quite a parent,
Hmm.
but who is older than you and can provide wisdom. So there's it's like a beautiful kind of niche difference between the kind of energy you'd get from a parent and like from like an older family member. It's like a different
Hmm.
kind of connection, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. So yeah,
Hmm.
you can see that emphasized.
And you know what? It could be, I wonder if it was easier for Beyonce to talk about her feelings with Uncle Johnny.
That's what I yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. Like a little bit more
Yeah.
of a transparent exchange when it's an uncle
Yeah.
and not your parent.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, Beyonce does have the Mars and Leo in the fourth, which, mom at home, I feel like, or just loud presence at home, right? Like both parents were like larger than life. So depending if you think
Yes.
the fourth is mom or dad.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like also moving around a lot, thinking about how that Mars is the ruler of that Moon Uranus conjunction. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting. The way that Neptune was on the IC for Tina, Beyonce has Mars in the fourth, right? In Leo. So almost as if she has the fire spark
Yeah,
to work with that air, with that
absolutely.
energy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Well, I was also gonna obviously bring up Solange,
Solange.
stand alone, but also now interesting to think about her moon in the context of Tina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Solange's character came out so strongly. So she was like described in the book as kind of like always in this ethereal place. And it was the gay, very Cancer 12th house, like deeply imaginative. But I
Mhm.
see her rebellion and her, again, precociousness and this willingness to kind of like break the mold as the fact that that Aquarius moon on the angle is ruling all of those Cancer placements. And she was
Mhm.
just like so insistent on her way. Like she's a very blunt actor, but you can tell it's coming from a place of like love or like this is who I am. And I think it's so funny. There's a part of the book where Solange was like, why don't we drive a Toyota Camry? Why are we in a Jaguar? And I feel like that's so Moon and Aquarius. Like take around at the people. I want to be like the people. The people are driving Toyota Camrys. Why do we have this Jaguar? It's silly, it's stupid. And I was like, that one anecdote really speaks to Solange's character.
I freaking love that, especially when I think about like the Libra third house, like with the
Mm.
Venus opposing it, like she's standing out by being herself and of the people in this
There you go.
context.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. She also does have Pluto on the IC.
Mm.
Very stark contrast, obviously, to Tina's
Yeah. And
Neptune
square that Venus. Like she went through
and
two
the
pretty pivotal
moon.
deaths. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Two pretty pivotal deaths when she was growing up, Solange did. I was like, okay,
Hmm.
there's that Pluto on the IC.
It's
Yeah.
very deep rooted. When I think about that Chiron and Lilith in Gemini, like that
Mm.
sibling wound
I didn't even go there with that, but yes.
early on, like I can like obviously they've overcome it, and I think that's what, is interesting to think about with this family, right? Like it's they go through so much together, and I think they were not shying away from more complicated conversations when she was
Yeah.
younger. Like Solange blurting out, like, do you I forget what it was about. Was it about dad, or it's like sharing dad or something, or when
Yeah.
they were younger?
Yeah.
Or like, oh, and he was even the, as I said earlier, the routine disruption thing, right? She was just being super vocal about stuff. And it's interesting to see how that comes alive with the Chiron and Gemini and Lilith and Gemini.
Yeah, and ruler of the third, big, loud, and bold, and Leo, right on the ascendant. She's going to speak her mind.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
I was also going to ask you, maybe you picked this up from the book and I just forgot it. Do you
Mm.
think the sibling rivalry is something that we've projected onto them?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't think they are moving in that way.
But you know what? A thought did come to mind because it does make sense with the 11th house projection.
Yeah.
But from the fans, but like,
Mhm.
you know how Beyonce, there's something that Tina wrote earlier on about how she basically never wanted to take up a spotlight, or
Mm,
she always felt weird about being overtly self-important when like people prioritize her over the team, etc.
mm,
And so it does make me wonder about Beyonce and thinking about the lanes that her sister has carved versus what Beyonce has carved. And not
mm.
to say that, you're ever expecting them to do the same thing, but it's almost like, I'm not going to intrude on your space versus you're not coming into my space. So like I don't want to, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I can see that being a thing as well. And maybe that even extending to the vocalness around activism or things like that even because
Yeah,
it's a
like
different approach for Solange.
yeah, totally. So maybe Beyonce is like that's Solange's thing. Like she will be
Hmm.
vocal in that way. I was
Hmm.
also just I couldn't help but kind of draw the comparison between Beyonce's sixth house sun and Solange's
Hmm.
12th house sun with respect to okay, who's the most visible sibling, but also whose work
Yeah.
is the most visible. And I was just so surprised to learn of Solange's stronghold in the artistic community and how it's a small, very devoted community, right? It's not one that I don't know anything about it, but it's
Hmm.
she's really respected there. And
Hmm.
that just makes me remember, sun in the 12th house, you're going to be behind the scenes, but you also get your recognition there. You also get your flowers there.
Hmm.
So yeah, I couldn't help but draw that comparison. Like she's important in big ways too. We just don't see it in
Hmm.
the way that we can see or materialize things in the sixth house.
Yeah. I mean, I also love the Neptune Sun opposition in this case. Like
Mm,
she really is pursuing that dream. And I think that's what it is too, right? It's in the sixth house, so it means like she also does have that Mars and Capricorn there to help
mm.
really put things into reality. Like you need the sixth house. Like you really do need to think about the sixth house as how you go about activating your dreams on some
Totally.
level.
Totally. And she's just like so dreamy. And I forgive me if this is wrong, but I feel like Tina described her as just like the consummate artist. And I really do think
Yes,
she is like really an artist. And she has that
absolutely.
kind of temperament and a real artist. Not that Beyonce is not real, but a real
Mm-hmm.
artist is not necessarily someone who's like, look at me, look at me. It's more so like, I'm gonna let what I do speak for itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like Tina sounds so like fond of her when the way
Yes.
she writes in the book, not like, oh, she was this way and now we've accepted her. Like, no, she's really like full blown accepted her throughout
Yes,
her
from birth.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just thought it was so beautiful to also have like that Neptune synastry continue to like run through with them, Neptune on
Yeah, her
Solange's
seventh.
whole.
Yeah, isn't that so cute? Yeah, that artistry thread is just so loud
Oh
with
my
them
God.
Knowles sisters.
The Knowles girls, the
Those
Carter
Knowles girls.
girls. That's
Yeah.
hard to say very fast,
Yeah, those
multiple
Knowles
times.
girls. That's also Neptune. Tongue-tied.
Literally. But also, I mean, oh my gosh, the Mercury on the South Node in the 12th. Like, I wonder, I guess it makes sense that she was probably her kid
Yeah.
again, like, and they're doing this all over again.
Yeah.
But I just love that this family traveled together. Like, and all families do, but to see it come out and like this is so striking. Like, it's so exact on the nose. Like, Tina's midheaven on literally like the North
North
Node.
Node. Yeah. Even that Chiron Mars connection seems very deliberate. Again, it's like going back to that question that you asked, which now I'm going to use all the time. What's the point of having this many tight conjunctions? Like, what is this trying to say? And I think it's that. It's like we've done this dance. Let's continue this dance. There's lessons and of course difficulty here, but we've decided to do it again.
Um,
And here we are.
I'm just awaiting your next post, please. Like your next series of carousels. What's the point here? And please, like, I actually thank
I
you.
actually will do that. What's the point of this?
Special request. Thank you.
Okay. Because what is the
Oh
point?
my
You know what I
God.
mean? That's when
This
astrology is like really trying to tell you something quite loud and you have to believe it.
Yeah. Honestly, it was really funny because, well, not really funny. I was on Reddit, and
Mhm.
someone was like feeling really depressed about like not being a Leo sun or something because they're like, I have a Leo sun, but I don't feel it,
Yeah.
you know? And I was like, and everyone was giving all these like responses, and it's, the wordy, like, this is what it means, and this is your evolutionary journey, and
Hmm.
da da da. And then I was like, think about it. Maybe you have to grow into the Leo sun. You chose it to learn it so that
That's
you can
right.
be who you are.
Yeah, the sun is like the journey. We want to end up there. We don't necessarily start there unless you have sun conjunct the ascendant. But also for Leos, it's like some Leos are sunrises, some Leos are sunsets, and some Leos are high in the sky in a noon summer day. Like the sun gets to be different things, and so does Leo. Like it's not always that big performative spectacle. It can also be just the gentle ways you show up and you love life. I don't know. Yeah.
God bless, especially with Venus and Leo in the air,
Yeah,
although
period.
we are in eclipse season,
Mhm.
so you know,
Rough. Yeah.
Godspeed to all of us. But I thought because obviously now knowing more context about Beyonce and Solange through the book, I thought it'd be just interesting to like look at their
Sister synergy.
charts. Yeah, yeah, especially like what the third house can say about that. And I mean,
Look how big Beyonce's impact is on Solange's third house. So again, that kind of movement, if you think of the third house as this cadent place where things are always between and never quite settled, and how
mhm.
Beyonce provoked that for Solange. And also how her south node is there as well. So there's like generally a soul desire to want to move up to that ninth house where we can be still and have a perspective and not always
Mm,
be like shifting and moving and shifting and moving. So that's the
yeah.
first way that it comes up, but I'm sure they have great, really deep conversations also. I would be curious
Mm.
about what they talked about. I was really, there was like some anecdote in the book where, I don't know, like Beyonce didn't think Solange would be able to make it to her 40th birthday party, I think.
Yes, yes.
And like it was like so like rich coded, but it was kind of funny. She was like helicopter after helicopter kept coming, and it wasn't Solange.
I
But
love that. So
Solange,
Cap.
yeah, Solange showed up and like Beyonce apparently like raced and ran over to her. So they love each other.
Mm.
So yeah, I wouldn't doubt that they have a really strong communicative, like even anticipating what the other thinks kind of relationship with each other.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And honestly, it is interesting because if I think about it, right, like you've got Solange's Mars on Beyonce's South Node, you've got
Mhm.
in theory that Venus Pluto on the South Node as well. So there is like intense synastry around the nodes. I think Solange was able to get rid of the innate competitiveness that might have
Mm.
probably arisen with Mars on the South Node. And so
Mhm.
as such, they like get such a beautiful relationship out of it, right? Like her ego did not get in the way, and she was able to then also South Node, like all that Libra pushing her to the other side of the polarity so that it
Mhm.
actually is embracing her own voice because on some level, like Beyonce's like not to say trapped in the music that she's in, because she's obviously genre defying and she creates her own lanes and music. But early on, right, in terms of like you have to do pop or you have to do
Yeah.
R&B, right? Like it was so much more restrictive into
Yeah.
what she could play around with versus Solange and her music. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I also see that retrograde. It's a retrograde Mars exalted in Capricorn.
Hmm.
As again, like what you said, retrograde planets, kind of like planets in detriment have unexpected results. And I just see that as like subverting the notion of like needing to compete and instead like softening into actually we can both be awesome.
Hmm.
So a retrograde Mars to me isn't as maybe power hungry or
Hmm.
self-oriented as it would be if it were direct. So I
Mm.
also see that retrograde. It's kind of subverting the notion of like there needs to be a top dog here. Like, what if not?
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine, right? With Pluto in the South Node, and you
Mm.
think about, where is her Venus? Yeah, Venus. Well, yeah, Venus in Leo. Like, there, I don't know. I feel like it could have been so different, but yet they chose very differently. And I love that. Like, I really do. And you think about that with the 12th house Cancer for her, almost as if she is letting go of maybe even like an
Mhm.
inferiority complex, or, just not to say that competition that is bred out of insecurity, but sometimes, right? Like with the Jupiter in the eighth house, maybe there's the projection of like, you're so much better and you're the ideal and you're
Mm.
perfect. And so I think like they're both titans in their own right, and it's just so, again, like I keep using beautiful because my cancer, like their Mercury in Cancer is on my sign, and I'm just like, this
So
is
beautiful.
so beautiful, like.
Yeah. I feel like her and everything that you just said, how she's been able to like transmute everything, is really also like that Aquarius moon is just so like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not interested in following that script.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just like so naturally, right? Again,
Mm-hmm.
being able to like do things in a different way, or especially as Aquarius, or especially as the moon representing family, right? And kind of like how we relate to family.
Mm-hmm.
Aquarius as this offering of like, how about we do it this way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
Yeah, I just don't feel
totally.
like Solange, not that I don't just don't feel like she cares about those things. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think an Aquarius moon would care about those things. Yeah.
That is fair. What do you make of the Pluto moon square?
Ah, she does have a Pluto moon square. Family, well, first of all those deaths that she experienced growing up with
Mm-hmm.
her, I think her psychiatrist
Mm-hmm.
died, or there was like a preempting of event for why she was in the psychiatrist. Is that just because she was Beyonce's little sister? Is that
I
why? Like family
no.
counseling?
Right, right. No, something had happened, yes, before that too. I can't
Yeah.
remember explicitly now off the top of my head, but yes, she did lose a couple of people very early on.
Yeah. And so I feel like that square can just be demonstrative of like very intense early childhood experiences, but then
Mm-hmm.
also maybe the kind of friction between how deep and how dirty and raw, I guess, like the Pluto, Scorpio, and the fourth house nature is, and the
Mm-hmm.
level of comfort with which the Aquarius moon is able to distill or even present that. So I wonder
Mm-hmm.
if she has battles, like she's obviously a deep feeler, but I wonder if
Mm-hmm.
she has battles with like how to present it. And I think like even doing it through like her art and her sculptures is this kind of distant Aquarius way of commenting on some pretty
Mm-hmm.
profound shit. I feel like she's found a way to make it work, but I would also just be curious if she fights with herself between like pulling back and zooming in and pulling back and zooming in and what that is like for her.
Very interesting. And now
Yeah.
well, I guess that kind of does translate to the Venus opposition as well, Venus moon there too. So yeah, I mean, it will be interesting for Solange because obviously the nodes are going through Aquarius
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Leo starting in next year already.
Isn't that
Like,
crazy?
I cannot
That's
believe
happening.
this Virgo. It. uh, I still feel like it just moved in because the spiral meter is high with the South
Yeah.
Node in Virgo, the anxiety.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think it is interesting. Both of them have Ceres in Virgo. The fact that they both have the mothering complex between Solange and Beyonce like mirrored in Virgo
Interesting.
is
Yeah.
also, I'm like, huh. Hmm.
What do you think that means?
You know what? That Tina actually was pretty fair
Uh,
in
yeah.
terms of how she showed up because I feel like, well, a couple of things. Virgo can be quite controlling.
Mm.
And so, maybe running a tight ship in a different way in terms of like we're gonna like work really hard at our craft, right? Like
Right.
you would think the routine stuff, right? Like it's interesting because this is a series in Virgo, so you would want more routine. And on some level, Solange did get the routine with
Hmm.
another family a little bit at some time. But it is interesting to see Beyonce have a different notion of that, almost like the sun on the series. It's more like I get to spend time with mom. That's my routine rather than like a physical structure routine
Right.
and a
That makes a lot of
schedule.
sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you differentiate between Beyonce's Scorpio moon experience of her mom and Solange's Aquarius moon experience of her mom. There is a kind of Uranian connection if you see
Mm-hmm.
Uranus as the modern ruler of Aquarius. So again,
Yeah.
mom as exceptional or mom as
Mm-hmm.
deviating from the norm in some way. But yeah, how do
Yeah.
you see that? Do you feel like I don't feel like Solange got less of her mom. I just feel like Solange maybe, yeah, I don't know how I would see that. I don't think Tina was
Yeah.
dissociating. I just feel like Solange maybe had a more like, I'm capable of carrying my own emotions experience with her.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think maybe with an Aquarius moon, it's almost like I can see it being initially disassociative, but then evolving into like a beautiful friendship that has
Mm,
space to breathe. I can see a situation where maybe like mom wasn't actively present in a way I would have needed her as a kid, but I wouldn't also vocalize it like that. And so then it's easier for me to vocalize it to therapy, you know? But
mm, yeah,
here's the thing, it is very interesting because they would be what you would ordinarily describe as like quote unquote difficult like aspects, right, to the moon.
right.
And so naturally you're always inclined to think, well, that's a complicated mom-daughter dynamic. And this is what I'll also say too. We're never necessarily going to get the nitty-gritty in the book. We're going to get the nice happily ever after, but ideal as well, right? So I would say that there can be more complications there. I mean, Moon Pluto response, even thinking about Solange going crazy in the elevator,
Mm,
right? That like that I feel like was very Tina also, the way Tina as a kid would maybe naturally step up. So
yeah.
I do feel like it's almost more of a friendship type of connection rather than just like a straightforward mom connection between the both of them.
I love that. Yeah, and
Hmm.
also just thinking of Moon, Pluto in the context of like the lineage she's from. These
Hmm.
dynamics don't always show up so loudly in like the present life,
Hmm.
but you just can't divorce these Knowles girls
These Knowles.
from the girlies they came from the matriarchal line they've come from, and they've probably come from powerful women. And so Pluto with the sun or Pluto with the moon in like contentious aspect can also just be about like struggling to reclaim that power or be powerful in a world that doesn't see you as
Mm,
such. I see that showing up so much. And even in Blue Ivy's chart, she has moon opposite Pluto. So powerful mom figure, but
mm,
also this kind of tension with respect to how am I allowed to embody this power in this society that, is constantly telling me that I don't, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I really see that dynamic as. What is it like to
mm.
come from powerful women who weren't able to be powerful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in the context of also like from a I love that perspective. I think from like a personal when I think about it also from like the relationship, like
Yeah.
internalizing her parents' relationships, right?
Mm,
And how that pattern might show up earlier in their dynamics or her dynamics and then like eventually she grows and heals from it, right?
totally.
So I mean, obviously, because if it's the one thing you're going to talk about Tina, obviously she's had tremendous success and a lot of difficulty, but like her marriage, her relationship with Matthew was brutal, I would think, for kids trying to make sense of it, right? Like she
Yeah.
moved them out suddenly, right? Like
Right.
we're headed out that way. And I can see that being that Beyonce Uranus moon activation, like all of a sudden we're in this house, all now we're in like a one bedroom that we're sharing the four of us.
Yeah.
And we might not even all remember the details correctly about that space.
Yeah. And Solange repeated that pattern when she moved to random name drop of Moscow, Idaho, to
Shout out.
follow to follow her partner at the time. And so she has also uprooted herself
Hmm.
for love or for things. So that's like a really well-worn South Node third house pattern that she has, especially when it's
Hmm.
in Libra, just packing up completely or completely being so itinerant because of a relationship that you have.
Mm.
Yeah.
It does make me wonder with Saturn in the fifth house, like,
Mm,
because it is also almost, I can see it two ways too, right? The idea of I maybe felt like my freedom was restricted in some ways as a kid
mhm.
because I would maybe have to be traveling with Beyonce and her tour and all the stuff. But then I also harvested or harnessed my work and was
That's
able
right.
to achieve immense success early on. The charts admittedly are revealing, it's not that Tina didn't reveal complications or like what was happening in their childhoods too, but obviously like the chart tells you so much more about their
Right.
subjective experience. So it is just interesting to note that placement.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also see like the Venus Leo. as like loud and flashly, like it's opposing the moon. So there's a part of the mom that is very glamorous.
Hmm.
And then the opposition to Aquarius. Again, it just reminds me of that story of like, we're in a jaguar, but I want to dissociate from this glamour or from whatever this
Yeah.
role is and just be in my Aquarius space of like, I'm an individual and there's no spotlight on me because there doesn't need to be.
Do
Yeah.
you think that's like a direct response to I don't want to be like you, mom, or Beyonce?
Did she say that?
No, 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 but just thinking about Venus
Oh,
Moon synastry or like the way that also shows up from just a pure mom dynamic, because as you just said, like Venus in Leo clearly also represents whatchamacallit, Tina as a Leo rising. But in my experience in family astrology, and Lynn Bella said this, I believe, maybe I miss, but just in case,
yeah.
the idea that if you have similar placements in families, you're meant to like differentiate.
Yes.
So
I remember
it
you
just is
saying.
like another nod to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. There's like a Venus opposition to the moon here where Tina has them conjoined. And so I can see that as like, I want space from,
Hmm.
right, whatever this norm is, or this, this Leo, again, Leo role that we're playing in Houston and otherwise. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, last person on the list, just to see the three generations now, how
Yeah.
Blue Ivy's chart stacks up with Tina's. I mean, there's the Cancer moon in theory if Blue is a 6 p.m. baby.
Yes. And another Capricorn sun conjunct her sun. So again, she's just being managed. She's being managed by Blue, and then she was kind of managed or steered by Matthew. But with Blue, it's kind of more funny and endearing.
Mhm.
But wow, what a Capricorn. There's so much Capricorn in their chart, which is, I think, why it's called matriarch. I don't know, there's just something so strong about matriarch that puts me in like the Capricorn like
Yeah.
archetype of tradition and like carrying a lineage. It doesn't feel Cancerian in that way. But yeah, holy Capricorn in this family.
I love that it is a reclamation because I think so often, right, you make that Saturn Capricorn association. Like a lot of people talk about like fatherhood, authority, all these things, but it's
Yeah,
like, well, Capricorn's actually a feminine sign,
totally.
and this really speaks to that.
Yeah. And like all the work that women have to do, how it's mostly behind the scenes. Yeah, I feel like Capricorn's very feminine.
You know what? I think that's actually a really great way. Like, I think the memoir is such a beautiful love letter to the sixth house,
Oh, yeah, it is.
because it
That's so sweet. Yeah.
down to the I'm reclaiming balance for myself, like after I've served the way I needed to
Yeah.
serve. Oh,
Yeah. And just like telling the story of like work and labor and what went on behind the scenes and how it happened. And yeah, it's just like also very like Leo rising, sun in the sixth house. Like you don't even see how much it takes to
hmm.
produce this light or to produce this spectacle. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
left that book with tremendous respect. And I think I told you, or maybe I told someone else, I was like, she made me want to work harder. She made me just want to do
Yes.
the hard thing a little bit more often that I do like the easy thing as a Taurus moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so her grit, it was a love letter to her grit, and it's just like the grit that pervades this entire g genealogy family line.
Oh, the Astro genes
The
are
Astro
strong.
genes. There you
Honestly,
go.
thank you for even putting that in perspective because dead ass had a full blown like meltdown earlier because I'm like, I'm just not doing anything. Like, and then I'm realizing, oh my God, yeah, I did just finish this book and she
Yeah.
accomplished so freaking much. It's actually so, so impressive.
Yes, and that's the best of Capricorn. Ugh.
Oh, I'm
Got there of your own effort, got there of your own blood, sweat, and tears, and now you're just awesome. And you're paying it forward. You're being other people's auntie, not in a literal way, but she has like, Tina's angels. So she's like a mentor
yeah.
now.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that sixth house is just so foundational to a good
Tina,
life.
Tina's Angels, the
Tina's
Neptune
angels.
on the ice sea. Oh
Oh
my
my
God.
God. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I figured we would maybe wrap up the episode with a little transit look at what the book meant, whether it's on a material plane or a spiritual plane. But I
Mm.
mean, this was a very, very, again, intense spring. We had Neptune moving into Aries for the first time in 84 years.
Yeah.
Like, This was one of the first, I think, like publications of the Neptune and Aries era.
Yeah, it was. That's true. Yeah. And wow, I just noticed Mars at the moment is the exact same. That's Beyonce's Mars placement as well. I
That
don't know. It's
is
just crazy.
that is me. Oh my God, I didn't even
And that's
notice that.
Solange's moon right there. Isn't that right there?
Well,
Yeah.
there
I
we
mean, like you're
go.
evoking your daughter's essences in this matriarch book release, and that's what it's about. It's about carrying on the legacy of these girls, and they're showing up in the transits of the book release. That's so cool.
Oh my God. I mean, also speak of book release, right? South Node moving through the well, this is Placidus, but wow, the Placidus is so compelling. Oh my God, with
Yeah.
this viewpoint. But still, the Neptune moving into the ninth house of publication, like
Hmm.
Venus. Oh yeah, that was the Venus-Saturn conjunction as well on the North Node.
Beautiful. Yeah. And yeah.
Wow.
And it's tr the Neptune is trying her ascendant. So again, I feel like ninth house placements can or ninth house transits can in a way be like very much about self-discovery or like opening up a new version of self to like the masses. And to kind
Mm-hmm.
of like even clarify in the way that maybe sometimes Neptune and Aries can be like, let's clarify this glamour, let's take it down to brass tacks and let me pull you into how it actually was. Yeah,
Yeah.
there are a lot of compelling transits. I love her Jupiter return in Gemini, and she literally released a book. And it's a Jupiter turn that is a Jupiter return that sees Jupiter direct, where her Jupiter is retrograde. And that just feels very poetic for like, now I'm speaking. I'm speaking now.
Oh my God, yeah. I that was like the best, honestly. Just like
Yeah, isn't it
so
gorgeous?
juicy. I mean, Pluto on her descendant, she really is revealing so much more of herself rather than the veneer
Yeah.
of perfection. Like, I mean, again, I'm sure it must not have been easy to want to talk about your marriage like that, especially seventh house, right?
Mm,
Not only is that transforming her relationship with the fans, the public, but also revealing intimate details about her relationship.
yeah. I find that in this book she was so gracious in ways
So
that she
gracious.
like really could maybe there was like one moment in the book I was like, is Tina about to be like a little bit like catty here? And she was like, no, it's just like part of the story of like enemies to friends and how she's friends with this
Yeah.
person. I was like, dang, she didn't like really she was able to say some pretty difficult, compelling, complex things without making it negative, if that makes sense. It was just like telling the story of all these like momentous moments that have happened to her, but never did I ever feel like she was like mad at it or like a
Mm.
victim or blaming others. It's just a very, again, Neptune maybe in Libra in the third house, just a very compassionate way of viewing everybody.
Yeah, but you know what? Maybe it's because the compassion does come from the internalized shame, you know,
That's true.
with the Mars Saturn. Like I think, yeah, that's why that Placidus felt so compelling because you really would see the Neptunian blanket, the empathy
Mm,
blanket over what was really difficult. Like when she realized about her mom, right?
mhm.
Internalizing the shame from her mom, right? Essentially
Yeah.
inadvertent, right? So for parents who are listening, like your kids are choosing you for a reason. So, and that comes with the territory. So for her, it was learning her self-worth and learning
Yeah.
to not necessarily maybe prescribe that externally. And so she was cultivating on that own, but I think she had as such more compassion for other people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love the sun in Taurus as like providing a nice little spotlight down on that complication, but it's doing it
Mm.
from this more stabilized place, finding more peace in the
Yeah.
identity. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, it's actually really funny. I forgot to say, like, the Pluto, or maybe I already said this, Pisces progress moon blaming on that, but Pluto in the first house, like, you know how she just talks a lot about, like, crazy shit has happened in my life. Like, the
Hmm.
most out of the blue stuff. Like, I think when she moved and her roommate had this guy who had shot someone, and,
That's right.
like, oh my God, like, all these, like, unexpected twists and turns with her life. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think you can live an like she's lived an extraordinary life. Like I don't think that can be possible without Pluto.
Yeah.
And you see that Uranus also squaring that Pluto.
Yeah.
Um, like we get to see actually behind again this very ironclad veneer.
Yeah. And also it's like Uranus coming to break free, maybe some of that Plutonian tension or like being able to give it maybe a release or some kind of like outlet. Because I
Mm-hmm.
always see Uranus as like liberating.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this helped liberate some shame for her, or in
Mm.
some way just made her feel freer from the Plutonian stuff that she was carrying.
Yeah, honestly, that's why people write books. Like that's
Yeah.
like part of Pluto. Like you do your healing and then you have to like not you have to, but it'd be nice if you altruistically shared that healing with other people. I think that's on some level, oh my God, I just had this whole ass thought like maybe that's why people get like really upset with like super hyper wealthy people, like because Pluto is like a big part of that and it kind of is like we're just like asking for more sharing,
Yeah, because
basically.
Pluto's underworld, like you don't
Mm-hmm.
know what's going on. Yeah, so I love how she was like very candid in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But you said, so she has Chiron on her North Node. So she is playing the role of healer here in like so
Mm-hmm.
many ways.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see how she's kind of like fully realized that through all like the different versions of who she's been and what she's done. She's done well with that Pluto. Like they're exactly in conjunct as well, 24 degrees to 24 degrees. So yes, there's a lot of richness. That's a rich text with happening there between like the heaviness of Pluto and like healing that through daily acts of just like showing up and doing the work. Really
Yeah.
doing the psychological work. That's
It
Saturn in Scorpio too.
eventually, I know she said she like worked with her therapist a long, long time before she like arrived at the realization or like the conclusion, I'm leaving Matthew. But hot dang, again, I can't imagine with the Neptune on the IC, it would make sense you would also escape into work to
Totally.
distract, like that's another rendition of it, right? If you want to like pull more meaning from the chart.
So she said that she's a workaholic, and that was her
Yeah.
like drug of choice.
Yeah.
It was just success and ambition, which is also another side of Capricorn.
Totally. But also if you have Pluto in on the angles, honestly, like maybe first 10th, maybe on the IC if
Mm.
you have that. But or me actually no, seventh too. There is gonna be an insatiable need to do something with your life
Transform, yeah.
mm-hmm. And
They all
like
three have Pluto on the angle, by the way. Tina, Solange, and Beyonce.
oh,
Isn't
you
that
don't
wild?
get to be that level of, not to say you can't, but like Pluto on the angle, it creates this insatiability. It really does.
Hmm.
You have to achieve what you are here to do, and nothing will stop you.
Yeah.
So don't be ashamed of that need because obviously with Tina early on, it's like her mom didn't believe in her dreams the way,
Hmm.
she would have wanted to, which was disappointing, which then kind of made it even like a bigger point to prove, right? Tina, like
Right.
maybe if you think about that even deeper, right? The Mars Saturn and the fourth, like I'm proving to mom on some level that like I can encourage my kids to live their dreams and we can still be even more successful than we could have ever been in our
Yeah.
lives.
And it really sounded like her mom made her life small because of fear, which is also
Hmm.
very South Node Cancer. Like her mom was just like afraid of a lot of things, which also feels very Saturn, Mars in the fourth house. I mean, she had
Hmm.
like literal reasons to be hyper vigilant. I mean, her family was stalked by the cops,
Yeah,
which is
that
like very
was.
literal fear, but also just her mom's justifiable view of the world as being a scary place.
Hmm.
And Pluto, I think the best of Pluto is confronting that fear and deciding to live anyway.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the stalking by the cops because it's
Hmm.
also interesting to think about, how Libra always just gets such a nice little rap, but like when you think about it in the context of the third house,
Mm.
Lilith and Libra, like two-way street, right? Not just your reality of it, but you're incurring the wrath or the ire of like social injustice as part
Oh,
of
right.
that.
Yes.
So
Like
that's
sacrificing is also a
mhm.
very Neptune, Libra, icy thing for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I feel like I've chatted your ear off, or like I've taken up a lot of your time on a Friday night to talk about
This is my favorite thing
Tina
to do. What do
and
you mean?
Matriarch. Ah! Well, I had a question for you, or like any, like, not to say light predictions, but obviously we did have the Venus-Jupiter conjunction recently in Cancer, at 13 degrees,
Yeah.
which is right on Tina's new moon.
Moon. Yeah.
What do you think that's all about?
Let's see. Venus, Jupiter, Cancer, 12th house. So a lot of like emotional healing or maybe some reconciliation. Maybe even though she's released this book, maybe there are still some resentments to push and to work through, especially because it was trining that Saturn Mars conjunction she has in the fourth house. So I think it may have been like a very emotionally alchemical moment of maybe releasing
Mm.
some of those things. And then honestly, like maybe just delicious times with her friends. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a very charged time, right? Because Mercury obviously was stationing, even the Mercury-Pluto opposition was stationing. So
yeah,
yeah, she's like readjusting her filter, coming, preening, pruning. It does make me wonder a little bit about the health stuff, just because she does
yeah,
highlight a lot of health stuff in the book. So hopefully nothing there, bless the most positive vibes only.
yeah.
The other thing I did hear were potential rumors of Beyonce and Jay-Z leaving the country. They're moving outside the
Oh,
country.
to Paris? It feels like they would move to
Maybe.
Paris.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere Europe, London
Yeah.
or Paris, either one. So
Nice.
could be interesting because it would mean like your kid literally leaving,
That's right.
which would also be interesting with the Jupiter Venus in the 12th house.
Yeah. It's like good and also cool that you have access to be able to pick up and leave, but also it's loss. And what is it saying also about the state of the country? Just, none of these
Mhm.
things are happening in a vacuum. So again, yeah, it is going to kind of force confrontation with like difficult things and grief likely too.
Well, Camille, I am so appreciative that we had a little Friday date
Me
talking
too.
about matriarch.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're a busy lady as of late, but is there anything you would like to share in terms of upcoming conferences, speaking engagements? Because that's a
Yes.
thing.
I do. So in October, and again, if you follow me, there'll be specific dates. I'll be presenting at the Come As You Are conference, which is held by the Astrology Co-op, which is this very awesome just group of astrologers who just banded together and created a thing. That's wonderful. I'll be speaking on my Neptune research there. So if you've heard Tasha referencing it a lot, when I've shown up in her podcast, you'll get a taste of it there. And that's pretty much it for the rest of the year. 2026, I have some things going, but that's a bridge we'll cross when we get there.
We'll cross that post-eclipse season. T's and P's,
Yes,
make it out of
yes.
this wash.
We're
But
just trying to
thank
get through
you.
the eclipses.
God's God. First one's coming up September 7th, in case you're still listening at this point. So buckle up, lunar eclipse in Pisces. We're flushing out some major, major stagnant bathwater.
Yes.
But thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of the Pop Astrologist Presents. I'll be back with another episode. So again, I don't have a proper schedule, so you're just gonna have to subscribe so you never miss a drop. But
There you go.
anyway, we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.